Hello everyone. In last lecture we have seen the live acquisition procedure. In that we come to know how to perform the network forensic. What are the different steps to perform the network forensic? So the one thing is that we have to create one bootable disk before the incident happen, and we create the new bootable disk after the incident happens, and after that we compare it and get what we lost from the incidents. And also we come to know what the different activities perform in a network using network forensic technique. So these are some tools that we have discussed to capture the RAM, like Win32DD, Backtrack 3, Mantage Memory DD, then Winex.com. Okay, these are the different tools that we use to capture the RAM, and it gives us the live acquisition. So our next point is order of volatility. So as we know that the data which present in a RAM is very sensitive, and when the computer get turns off, at that time we lost that data. So the priority of this data that is present in a RAM is very high. So we have to first collect that data. Okay, and the order of volatility defines the priority to take backup of data. So which data is so very much important in the case of network forensic, that we collect it first. So order of volatility, the investigator faces the problem of the order of volatility. It means how long a part information lasts on a system. So order of volatility, because we maintain the order of volatility because the data is very sensitive, and if the PC turn off, we can't get that data. So it gives the priority. Data such as the RAM and why our student not join in a time. Okay, data such as RAM and running process might exist only milliseconds. Other data such as files stored on the hard drive might last for years. So the data present in a RAM is very sensitive, and it remain in a RAM memory for millisecond only. So we have to get that data. Otherwise, we did not come to know what activities perform in the network. Then, while collecting the evidence related to network based on the volatility, a proper order of collecting the evidence have to follow. This is known as the order of volatility. Order of volatility is nothing but we collect the evidence as per their volatility. We make the proper order of collecting the data. That is nothing but the order of volatility. That means from which device we first collect the data, and in which device we collect the data last. The order of such devices are known as the order of volatility. So order of volatility is given below. The first very sensitive data is present in register and cache. So first we have to get that data. Then the routing table, ARP cache, process table, kernel statistic. So routing table where all the packet data is stored. That means packet moves from source to destination. From which computer it moves, it maintained in a table format. That is the routing table, ARP cache. So cache data is very sensitive. It first access the data from the processor. So that would be very important for the investigation. Then process table, kernel statistic. This is the second one. Then third one is the memory, primary memory, that is RAM. Next one is the established network connections. Fifth one, the running processes. What are the running processes uh, are run on our system? Then temporary file system, media in use. That means the what the data stored on a hard disk or other storage devices. Remote locking and monitoring data. Then backup media, tapes, this. Then arrival virtual media, and last one is the CD drives and DVD drives. Okay, from so this is the order of volatility from which we collect the data as per the list. After this you can separately collect the analog material like physical configuration and network topology, paper, figure, fingerprints, and DNA. Okay, next point is the developing standard procedure for network forensic. So this is the standard procedure, and every network forensic member follow this one. So it's a very important. So first time, every time use the standard installation image for the system on network. So we have to create standard installation image of our hard disk. This image is not a bitstream image but an image containing all standard application use. So it's not a bitstream image. Uh, it's a regular image where we can store the information. For all the application and OS files, you should have the MD5 and SHA values. In case intrusion incident occurs, ensure that the vulnerability has been fixed to avoid the other attacks from taking advantage of opening. So when the incident happen or intrusion happen in any organization, they should be take care of the vulnerability. And first, the forensic developer must fix the vulnerability, and after that it try to recover all the volatile data by performing the live acquisition before the system turns off, for example RAM and running process. So after that, the network forensic developer collect all the volatile data from the computers like RAM and running processes by performing the live acquisition. Next, next step is acquire and make the forensic image of the compromised drive. So we have to take the forensic image after the incident happened. So this we create before the incident happened, and it we create after the incident happened. And last step, that is we compare between the two images. Perform the comparison between file and forensic image and original installation image. Also to compare the common file hash values such as win.exe and standard DLL and find out whether they have altered. So after that we do the comparison and check the original data and the data which we get after the incident happened is altered or the same. If it is altered, then we get the data from our backup. So here we end the second chapter, that is the network forensic. So the important questions are: what is network forensic? What is mean by securing network? What is mean by reviewing logs? Write short note on network forensic tools. And what is the general procedure for giving live acquisition? What is order of volatility? And what is the standard procedure used in network forensic? So these are some common questions that may be asked in your question paper. It cover all the points. Okay, and all the answer you will find in these notes only or this book only. Okay, and the first chapter we have these questions that we have already discussed. You have to note down all the questions with answers in your assignment book and submit it when our offline college will start. Okay, let's start with the third chapter, and that is also very interesting. As in first chapter, we had seen computer forensic and the different tools that we use to recover the data on a computer. After that, in second chapter, we have seen the network forensic, and in that we discuss the different tools and what is live acquisition, then order of volatility, standard procedure to perform network forensic. So all these points we then review. What is review log? All these points we discuss in the second chapter. So now we are going to start with the third one, cell phone and mobile device forensic. As we know that the number of attacks also perform on a cell phone as the human being regularly use the mobile phone for for his daily transaction and lot of data stored on a mobile also. The human being perform different banking transaction on mobile instead of using computer. So for that, the role of mobile device forensic is very crucial nowadays. So first, cell phones and mobile device forensic is the fast-changing field as the maximum work is done by mobile devices. So its work are very crucial nowadays because the maximum people use the mobile devices and their data, lot of data the user store on a mobile only. In cell phone, the people save lots and lots of data. So in case you lose your mobile phone, the data stored in the cell phone also get lost and it may be used for the wrong purpose. So we store lot of data in a mobile, and if we lost our mobiles, then our uh, data also get lost, and that data may be used for the wrong purpose. It is observed that many people do not secure their cell phones through they regularly lock and secure laptops or desktop. So it is observed that the people that using mobile phone not make it secure. They generally take care of laptops and desktop, but they are very careless about the mobile. Nowadays, the maximum transactions are done via mobile, like people log into their bank accounts and transfer the funds and perform the banking work. Your mobile phone contains the following information. So, people store their important data on mobile, and it contains the information like SMS, then email, then instant messages like WhatsApp message like that, then web pages that they visited regularly, photos and videos, personal calendars, address book, songs, voice recording, banking details. So and also the different applications that run on the system. Nowadays, the maximum people are storing more information on their cell phone than the computers, and it's resulting in a crime or cases. So nowadays, the people are store their data on a mobile. Before or long ago, people store their data on a computer or a laptop. But nowadays, they store data on a mobile, and the attacker or the hacker take advantage of this. They attack on your mobile system and easily get all the data because some apps are not so much secure that we use on a regular basis. Our data may be lost, and the people or the attacker take advantage of it. But it is very challenging. But it is very challenging to investigate the cell phones and mobile devices in computer forensic because mobile phones are updated regularly, its operating system change regularly, it's updated. So the forensic team must knowledge of it. The following are the challenges while the investigating the mobile devices and cell phones. Okay, first one is the for storing the message, no single standard ID exists. Through many of the phone use the same storage scheme, so there is no standard to store the messages in the mobile. There is no standard ID generated using that the forensic team access the messages. All mobile use the same storage scheme. Next one is the as technology is changing, new phones are coming in the market even 5 to 6 months, about every 5 to 6 months, and they are merely compatible with the previous model of the phone. In near future, the cables and accessories may become obsolete in a short time. So regularly, the new models uh, has has been come in a market, and it has a new technology that used in a mobile phone. The programming is different one, and then some devices tools that use are different one, and the old one get obsolete and no one can use that mobile. As the cell phones are often combined with PDA, that is personal digital assistant, which can make the forensic investigation more complex. So, as the cell phone use the PDA, that is personal digital assistance, and it makes the investigation complex. Then this is the networking part that we are going to discuss now. That is mobile phone basics. So in 1970, the Motorola introduced cell phones and it developed rapidly. So first company that introduced mobile phone is Motorola, and now there are a lot of companies that develop the phone. There be three generations of the mobile phones till 2008, and they are analog, digital, then personal communication service, and third generation. So up to 2000, sorry, up to 2008, it's a 3G, and three generations are first we use the analog phone, as we know that the tring phone. Then digital phones are used in the market, that is digital communication services, digital personal communication service, and then 3G introduced. 3G gives the increased bandwidth. Nowadays we use the 4G, and the generation is different by the difference in using the bandwidth. So in 2G the bandwidth was very small. After that the 3G was introduced where bandwidth is more than 2G, and now we use 4G. The bandwidth is much more increased. So in 2G we can send only SMS. Using 3G we can send the video, and using 4G we can download the movies fast, or we can view the data with maximum data speed. 3G gives the increased bandwidth as compared to analog and PCS. It gives the it gives the 384 kbps. Its strength used to megabyte per second in fixed location. So if it is variable variable space, then it gives the 384 kbps. That is very small because the location is always get changed, and network uh, cannot continuously available for the mobile. And but if it is a fixed location, then we can get the data speed up to 2 megabyte per second, such as the office building, and 128 kbps in moving vehicle. So for moving vehicle, we get the only data speed up to 128 kbps because every time our location get changed, and it is difficult to access the data. Next one, these are some detailed networks for mobile phone, and these are some important technologies that we use regularly. So first one is the code division multiple access, that is CDMA. Then GSM, that we know better because we regularly use GSM mobile, Global System for Mobile Communication. Then there is one more technology that we use in a mobile, that is TDMA, Time Division Multiple Access. Next one is the Integrated Digital Enhanced Network, that is IDN. Digital Advanced Mobile Phone Service, that is DAMPS. Enhanced Data GSM Environment, that we use for the 4G mobile edge. And orthogonal frequency division multiplexing, this also we use in our current mobile system, that is OFDM. Here we use the frequency, here we use the time, here we use global system. So in every technology there are different things that use. Okay, so next one is the CDMA, that is code division multiple access. And CDMA is developed by the Qualcomm to define the channel. CDMA uses the complete radio frequency spectrum. Sprint and Virgin Verizon uses the CDMA network. So CDMA is the first technology that was introduced, and most of the mobile uses the CDMA. because it's a code division multiple access. That means it divide the code and use the frequency as per the code divide the frequency. Many of the CDMA networks match IS-94, which is created by Telecommunication Industry Association. Uh, these systems, these systems are the systems are known as the CDMA 1, and when they go to 3G, the service will become CDMA 2000. So this is the new version CDMA 2000 that is used for the 3G mobiles. Next one is the global system for mobile communication that introduced when the we can we use the 2G mobile. GSM use the AT&T and T-Mobile. It is the standard Asia and Europe. Hello, Samia. Okay, global system for mobile communication. This is generally applicable for the 2G mobile, and it is introduced by the AT&T and T-Mobile. It uses the different technology, that is the division multiple access, time division multiple access. So here the time is divided as per the network. Thus the many phones get turns sharing channel a lot like a token ring. So as we know the token ring, so if the one user uses the network, after some specific time it goes to the next user, then next user use that, after some time period it uses the next. So like a ring it works. Ring technology we have seen in a ring topology that we discuss in the different types of topologies. Then next one is the time division multiple access, TDMA. Here the this technology used in a GSM mobile. The TDMA network divides into okay, TDMA network divides the radio frequency into time slots. So it divides into time slot. It specify the time slot. So after 5 seconds it change. GSM also use the same techniques. The TDMA refers to the IS 136 standard, which introduced sleep mode to enhance the battery life. The TDMA can be work in the cell phone with the frequency. So on this frequency the TDMA works 800 megahertz to 1000 megahertz. So our mobile device is compatible with TDMA. Then our mobile set the frequency with this only. So it can receive the signals up to 800 megahertz to 1000 megahertz. PCS 1900 megahertz frequency. As the result, it compatible with the number of cell phones and network, and most of the mobile phones work on this technology. Next one is the IDN, that is Integrated Digital Enhanced Network. It is a Motorola protocol which combines with the various services including the data transmission into one network. So here Motorola introduced the new technique for the data transmission, and that use in a one network. Next one is the Digital Advanced Mobile Phone Service, that is DAMPS. DAMPS is the digital version of original analog standard for the cell phones. Those phones work on analog standard. They follow the digital advanced mobile phone service. Edge, that is we recently used for the 3G network. Edge digital network is used to deliver data, and it is faster version of GSM. So it's the next version. In 2G we mostly use the GSM, and in 3G we use Edge. The 3G standard is developed by the International Telecommunication Union, and it is compatible with CDMA, TDMA, and GSM. So if we are using Edge network, then it works on the CDMA as well as TDMA and GSM also. So here we end with the different technology that use in a mobile. Tomorrow we are going to see the orthogonal frequency division module because it's a long point and it's not able to cover in this lecture. So I hope that you understand all the things. If you have any doubt regarding this, let me know. कुणाला काय डाऊट आहे का? कारण आपलं लेक्चर संपत आलंय, टाइम संपत आलाय आता. कुणाला काय डाऊट असेल तर सांगा मग. आणि सगळेजण टाईमवर या. या तुम्ही अर्धा उशिरा येता तुम्ही. मला पुन्हा ऍड करायला मग प्रॉब्लेम येतो तुम्ही उशिरा आल्यानंतर. तुम्हाला टाइम माहित आहे, आपण ग्रुपवर मेसेज पण टाकतोय. तुम्ही टाइम मध्ये या. ओके. आणि फक्त अटेंडन्स साठी बसू नका तुम्ही. म्हणजे अटेंडन्स तर लागणारच आहे तुम्ही बसल्यावर, पण लेक्चरला पण लक्ष द्या. खूप इझी सब्जेक्ट आहे, थेरॉटिकल बेस आहे आणि कन्सेप्ट क्लिअर होऊन जातील तुमच्या. ओके. काय डाऊट असेल तर व्हॉट्सअपला विचारा. मी चॅटचं हे घेतोय. कुणाचा जर अटेंडन्स राहिला असेल तर इन्फॉर्म करू, त्याच्यामध्ये राईट करा. प्रथमेश, तू पण रेग्युलरली येतो जातो सारखा.
प्रॉब्लेम आहे.
ओके ओके, नेटवर्कचा प्रॉब्लेम आहे. ठीक आहे, चालेल. ओके, आपण एंड करूया सेशन. थँक्यू फॉर वॉचिंग.